talk some Super Bowl, man. So obviously I went to the game, sat with Creed Humphrey's parents. It was an amazing experience. And we'll do a little weekend recap. It was a 3-day grind, dude. But what'd you think of the game? One of the best we've ever seen. Did the defensive holding call ruin it for you?
It didn't ruin it, but it changed the ending big time. I think the Chiefs would have won, but it did take away the opportunity for Philly to go down and try and answer. It didn't ruin it, but it did rob us of what maybe would have been a thrilling end to it. But it was still a fantastic game. What's crazy to me is how fast the game was. The coin toss was at like 5:35, and they had like a feature-length film in the coin toss. So I don't know what time they actually kicked off, but the game was over at like 9:15. The game was fast, man, including a 30-minute halftime.
Well, it's because the Eagles went on some just ridiculous drives, man.
I know it.
Just
what was
converting
that
on 3rd and 4th down.
17-play drive, longest in Super Bowl history.
Yeah, it was a great game. And I've got a question for you. Mm-hmm. So, big brain on Jerick McKinnon, right? Laying down, and I know that probably made some people that had a McKinnon anytime touchdown prop bet very, very angry. And it did. I'm not going to say it robbed us, but it certainly took away the chance of a much more dramatic ending to that football game if the Eagles would have gotten the ball back. I do not know the rule on this, but why, if you're the Eagles, and I've never heard of a team practicing this either, but because McKinnon kind of pauses, right, before he goes down. Why not just pick him up and put him in the end zone if you're the Eagles? Is that against the rules? I don't know. But
no.
if I was a team in that situation, that is what I would have my linebackers like trail him and physically pick him up off the ground and go and put him in the end zone and basically score with him to where we got the ball back. And people would freak out. They would say that's not how the game is meant to be played. I get that. But it's the Super Bowl, man. You got to do what you got to do. So that's I didn't know. Is that against the rules?
No, it's not against the rules. I think it's one of those things where it's such a rare circumstance that it's not practiced, right? When you relay in, let them score. I think the players assume just like kind of give up on the play. It shouldn't be let them score. It should be relayed into the Mike backer, make them score.
Make them score.
Make them score.
And it's not like Philly doesn't have the guys, right? This is what, and I was talking to Creed's dad about this in the stands. I was like, hey, they should have told Ndamukong Suh and Fletcher Cox, go put that guy in the end zone. Pick him up and put him in the end zone. I didn't know if that was against the rules. I wasn't sure what, but that's what was going through my head. Is like, don't let him take a knee. Don't let him give himself up. Go and put him in the end zone.
Yeah, no, that was interesting. And you hope, and you always see right there that little hesitation by the running back. They're like, my whole life, all my instincts have told me to just go put this thing in the end zone right here. And this is in the Super Bowl. It's hard to fight against that and go down, but heads up from the Chiefs. Like, there's a lot of communication going on right there that not only is Philly saying we need to let them score, Kansas City is saying they're going to try and let us score. Don't go in the end zone. So there's a lot of back and forth going on there, and credit Kansas City for being able to, they executed the end of that game flawlessly. Whatever you think of the defensive holding, after that happened, they executed it as perfect as you can.
Yeah, and really, Philly's defense, they couldn't get stops in the second half.
Yeah.
Right. And credit to that Chiefs offensive line. They heard all the chatter in the 2 weeks leading up to that game, and they played an awesome game, man. I mean, they controlled the line of scrimmage, no sacks for the Eagles. And not only that, Chiefs ran the hell out of the football.
They did.
Which I didn't know if that was going to be able to happen. And now credit to Andy Reid and to Eric Bieniemy. That run game was dialed up, man. Different variation. I mean, zone, gap scheme stuff, speed sweep. Like they had a little bit of everything in there. Eye candy on all of it. Like it was really, really good stuff and very diverse. But yeah, the Eagles defense, just they couldn't get stops. And that was supposed to be the strength of that football team. Really. Yep. Like and now their offense line probably the strength, but that was supposed to be the difference for them. That was supposed to be why they won, because they had that defense and Kansas City didn't. And the Chiefs offensive line and that Mahomes guy, he's pretty good. They're like, we don't care about your defense. You're not going to stop us. And when they had to get a stop, they couldn't get it.
Yeah. Well, I think it really comes down to 3 plays. And if it wasn't for these 3 plays, I think not only do the Eagles win, but I think the Eagles win probably going away. The fumble recovery for a touchdown, massive play. The punt return down inside the 5, and then the defensive holding. But maybe if those other 2 don't happen, maybe the defensive holding doesn't even matter. I think those 2, like that's where the whole game totally changed, and Kansas City just got that wave of momentum, and you couldn't slow them down. And yeah, I think the offensive line for the Kansas City Chiefs are the heroes of the day. The job that they did, they were physical. You saw a bunch of those just kick out blocks and pancake blocks, and Creed did a great job. They had some, I think Philly probably I did whenever the ankle was bad and Mahomes went in at halftime. Like I was like, I don't know how he's going to play again. He came out looking like a new man. He looked better in the second half than he did in the first. And I think that Philadelphia changed what they were doing up front a little bit to say, hey, take the safety off, take the governor off. We're coming after this guy. And they were able to use that to get some big windows in the running game that were converting some big plays for them down the stretch.
Yeah. Whatever drugs that man got at halftime, like the dude was skipping in between plays in the second half. I was looking at like, he is feeling fantastic out there. And clearly the big scramble on that last drive, that was one of the biggest plays in the game. I thought I think Philly was down 1 at the time. I saw Orlovsky break this play down, and I said something very similar watching the game live. It was 3rd and 2. Chiefs bring a 6-man pressure. Eagles have 6 guys in blocking, and they bust. Willie Gay's free, and Hurts has to throw it away instead of hitting A.J. Brown right in the middle of the field. It's like 3rd and 2, and I was sitting there going, why aren't they running the ball? In that situation all game long, they'd been converting, whether it was 3rd down or 4th down. I honestly was a little surprised they just didn't get in their little rugby scrum and run it for 2 yards. They'd been able to do it the entire day. So I thought that was an interesting play call in that situation. And that got the Chiefs off the field. But Andy Reid's getting a ton of credit for some of the goal line stuff, the low red zone stuff where guys are, one was Kadarius Toney, the other one was Sky Moore. Did you see the clip? He was like, it's called corn dog, which is amazing. But, and he deserves credit because you're forcing the defense to communicate, Ted. But I mean, as well as anyone, you just can't bust there defensively. No. Like those are busts. You can give Andy Reid and the Chiefs all the credit in the world, but the communication has to be better. You can't leave guys wide open down in that area of the field. You just can't do it.
Can't do it. And the communication, like this is where film review and just understanding, like being able to speak the language of your defense has to come in. Like the communication has to already be basically factored in. It's almost too late. Like you have to communicate all pre-snap. After that, it's all so quick. Everyone has to know exactly what they're supposed to do, and you can't afford any mistakes at all. It's so tough. The spacing is so small. Yeah, that was a strange little bust that you saw there. That's not something you typically see from Super Bowl teams.
Right.
Listen to this stat. I thought this was crazy. So the Eagles in the Super Bowl passed for 300 plus yards, rushed for 3+ touchdowns, had 35 plus minutes of time of possession, converted 60% of their third downs, went for it on fourth down multiple times and converted all of them. No team has done that, all of that in a game, regular season or postseason, since the Bengals did it December 17th, 1989, in a game that they won 61-7.
That's unreal.
That's unreal. And they lost the Super Bowl.
Hurts was awesome.
Yep. Except for the fumble.
The fumble was clearly a massive play in the game, but even the fumble, they bounce back immediately and they take a 10-point lead into the half. I don't think you could. Now clearly giving up a scoop and score is not ideal. I understand that. But how much better can you ask a guy to be who's playing in his first Super Bowl? It's the biggest game of his entire life. And the argument could be made he was the best player on the field. Like, not only what he did with his legs, but some of those throws, the couple to Devontae Smith, the ones to Dallas Goedert.
Money.
I mean, I was like, who is this guy?
Yep.
The argument, now Mahomes wins, so you're not going to say, hey, Hurts outplayed Mahomes. Hey, Mahomes won the MVP. He's the one holding the trophy, man. I mean, it is what it is. But that's got to be one of the best performances we've seen from a quarterback in a losing effort in the Super Bowl. Maybe the best performance.
It probably is. Yeah.
He was fantastic.
And I don't see it changing. You know, he's got mobility and he uses it, but he's built differently than most mobile quarterbacks that you see. He is a big, strong, he's built more like a backer than he is a quarterback. So I think he's got more durability in the things that he does running the football, that I don't really worry as much about him taking a big time injury. So I think it's here to stay. I expect him to play at a high level for the extended future. I don't see it as a fluke.
You've got a lot of weapons around him, man.
Yeah.
Now, if they can keep that offensive line intact, is it Kelsey's last season? Is he done? Lane is not young anymore, but I think he's got at least a couple more seasons left in him if he wants to play. But if you keep that O-line where it's at, he got a lot of weapons around him, man. I never thought he would be this.
Yeah.
I mean, hand up. I never thought he would be this.
I don't think anyone did.
Maybe him. That's about it. It was, I mean, what a performance in a losing effort. But Chiefs scored on defense and they had, a 50+ yard punt return? Yep. You have those two things in an NFL game, the odds are in your favor, man.
Yeah, if you score on defense, I don't know exactly what it is, but the numbers are incredible for winning. And they essentially scored on special teams too with that. I mean, down inside the 5. So yeah, those two plays, the absolute difference. Which Nick Bolton, stud. A lot of people don't know his name. Inside backer from Missouri. Dude is a beast.
Yeah. And Pacheco, A lot of people know that dude's name now. My
Yeah.
goodness.
He
He's
had a
fun to
game.
watch.
He is. He is.
I will say watching the Super Bowl in person is great, but I really wanted more replays, man. Like it's just a different experience. Now watching it,
And
I
as
was
much
with
as you eat, I I imagine at like a traditional Super Bowl party, like you
bloodbath, bloodbath.
right.
Yeah.
That's
So it was different. Now for everything I didn't eat, I drank enough beers with Creed's brother that I was feeling very, very
it was
good.
easy to get them, easy access. They were coming
Easy to
quick.
get them. And the best part about it, man, I didn't miss a single snap, not one, because in the concourse where we were sitting in section 133 and like one section over, like up in the concourse, you know how bathrooms normally on the concourse are kind of like facing the main walk? Like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
There were two bathrooms like tucked back in a hallway, like on the sides. I think I peed like 5 or 6 times during the game.
Nobody knew they were there.
No one knew that. Never waited in line once.
Awesome.
Just was peeing freely, grabbing beers on my way back to the seat. Like it was awesome. And some of celebrating some of Creed's pancakes in the stands with his family. That was, I mean, it was so much fun. But the one other thing that we haven't talked about regarding the game, it was just funny, man. I mean, Oklahoma State puts out that tweet bragging about how they were the ones that made the grass. And then everyone and their dogs complaining about the grass and how bad the field was. It was almost too perfect, man. And I have played a game in that stadium, right? We played the Fiesta Bowl there. The grass was awful then. I feel like anyone that has played there knew the grass was going to be awful. And it was, but it was just funny that Oklahoma State claimed the grass like, oh, it took us a couple years. We've made this fancy grass. And then guys just slipping and falling all over the place. Everyone complaining about it. It was hilarious.
That was great. I thought it was hilarious. I don't know who said this, but I saw it on Twitter. And it was basically, does anyone else think it's funny that a school that claims to be the number one like ag grass developer in the country plays on an artificial field? Like, how funny is that? Like, they don't even use their own specialty grass on their field. Pretty funny.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, I know there are a lot of complaints about the field, and I agree. Like, you would, in an ideal world, right? You play the Super Bowl on a surface that's just a non-factor in the game, right? But grass is part of football. Slipping and falling in grass is part of football, and both teams are playing on the same field, man.
I agree. And I'll say this, a couple of quick points. First of all, like, it's a cool idea to do the whole grass inside the turf or inside the dome thing, but it's way too big of a pain in the ass, and the result is not very good. Just lay some turf down in there, make it so much easier on everyone else. But number two, I always say that your cleats are a tool, right? And you have to know how to use them, and you have to adapt how you're using them to the field that you're on. And I saw guys out there that were just fine. Did you see the couple of moves that Scott, the running back for Philly, put on some guys out there? He didn't have a problem getting his toes in the ground. So I think it was maybe some guys not using the right cleats. And sometimes if you've got taller spikes in, if you've got screw ins, there's only like maybe 10 cleats on the bottom. So the chance that you can get onto the side and slip out is increased by a factor of 100. And whenever you're trying to go as hard as you can, like in the Super Bowl, is whenever you typically start to like slip out and change your footwork a little bit. I think there was some of that going on too.
Yeah. Grass was a factor, but both teams were playing on the same grass, man. So it is what people are like. Philly couldn't get a pass rush because of the grass. Really? I mean, really? Come on. Come on. Just give the Chiefs offensive line their credit. But I will say this. Found out some more details about what Lane Johnson was playing through. That dude's a stud, man. And
Torn adductor?
He locked, like, there's no doubt that dude should have had surgery. And he absolutely he was incredible in the playoffs, and he was fantastic again in the Super Bowl. Like, it's like you could just eliminate the defensive end that's over him. I mean, what he's become as a player is, I mean, it's stupid. I mean, that we came in together as tight ends in the same recruiting class, and now, like, he's having a Hall of Fame career as an offensive tackle. It's awesome, and that guy is tough as hell. I'll just say that, like that.
Here's the other thing. He's locked people down the entire season while injured, and he probably hasn't practiced in 3 months or more. Probably sitting over on the water cooler doing walkthroughs and going out on Sunday and locking people down.
It's impressive, man. It is impressive. Okay, just the quick weekend recap, Ted, because this is the first Super Bowl I've been to, like the actual game, and I think I'm good with it being the only one ever that I go to. Now, I say that not because it was bad, because everything went so smoothly, like suspiciously smoothly, that I think, like, I just don't think I can top the experience. So Friday night, we fly in. We end up going to a Super Bowl party with one of my wife's friends, and we walk in. I'm wearing a hoodie. All these other people are dressed up. They look awesome. I'm like, I look like an idiot, because we went to a bar before, and I was like, I had a hoodie and jeans on, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I look like an idiot. They're pouring drinks, and it's Johnny Walker and Don Julio 1942, and I'm like, we are at the right party. So I'm drinking 1942 all night. They've got food everywhere. And then Ludacris, Jermaine Dupri, and Lil Jon come out and perform. And I'm like, what is happening right now? Wow. Like, it was, and there was space. It wasn't crowded. I was stunned. So, and that's right in the wheelhouse. That's like, 12 years old to like college for me. I was in my bag, man.
I bet. That's awesome. How was the performance like in a small venue like that?
Oh, so good. So good. Awesome. I was getting it. I was absolutely getting it. At one point I was dancing on a couch. It was great. It was great. And so we had that, and we were even talking about it on our way home. We were like, what was that? And why were there not more people there? It was strange. Saturday, 16th hole at the Waste Management. They're at the Phoenix Open. Dude, that place is a zoo. Now, once you actually get to the 16th hole, you're good. You're in kind of you're just in a mini stadium, right? And there's plenty of space, but getting there, I was walking over there and you're looking around. There's all of these people, some of them barely wearing clothes. And I kind of turned to my wife. I was like, I think I'm too old to be here. Like, I feel like I'm too old to be here. But then we got in, met up with LaJuan and Will Compton. Shout out to the bussin' with the boys. And I kind of just tagged along with them all day long. LaJuan was like, you're coming. I was like, okay. And we just went all around, met all these different people. There ended up in a section with a bunch of football guys, Saul Baker and Mark Andrews, a couple guys. Met the Bosa brothers. My God, they are exactly how you think they would be. They're a fun time. Yeah, but it was great. And got in, got out. Awesome. And then Sunday, the Rihanna halftime show. It was super easy to get to the stadium. You had the Rihanna halftime show. The game was amazing. Went to the Chiefs after party. Chainsmokers, DJ Khaled, and Jason Derulo, who, by the way, I think is an Eagles fan. His hair was green for the performance.
I was about to ask, so like for the celebration, is that same celebration, would that have been for the Eagles had they won?
I believe the party happens no matter what. Like, okay. It's either whether you're happy drinking or sad drinking.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so we weaseled our way into the Chiefs after party, and we were there till like 3 a.m. It was awesome. Just constantly hugging Blake and Creed. It was it was an incredible weekend. An incredible weekend. And I almost the whole time was waiting for one thing that would like really piss me off about the weekend. Like, there it is. It never came.
Never happened.
Never happened.
No flight cancellations. No hotel issues.
Nothing.
Did you see Joe Thomas out there?
I did not get to see Joe. He was booked. Turns out you get elected to the Hall of Fame, they want you to do a bunch of scheduled stuff.
Oh, man.
But don't worry, we'll catch up eventually. But yeah, it was awesome.
That sounds awesome.
So that's one of those things where like, I don't think I need to do it again. I'm good.
It's you hit the perfect brush stroke on the painting. It's done. No more.
This is the example I'll give. I've been on one whale watching tour in my life. And we get on the boat and we are 5 minutes in, and whales just everywhere, crisscrossing, swirling. It's like, is it Prudential? What's the life insurance commercial? Who does the?
Yeah, I think that's right. I think it's Prudential.
It's just like humpbacks left and right. And I'm looking around like, this doesn't seem normal. This lady's just like, I've been doing this for 15 years. This is the best whale watching I've ever seen. And I was like, okay, I'm good. One time. That's all I need. I'm good. Yeah. That's kind of how I feel about my Super Bowl experience.
That's awesome. That's good. That's perfect. It was a good weekend, man. I'm glad the way it unfolded was awesome. I wish we would have seen a little bit more of an organic ending to it, but other than that, I thought it was a great game.